Namato Ratanatayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Zim, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening everyone. So today is Sunday, the 18th of October 2020, and this is Ajahn Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. As usual, I'm here with you all on this night. And thank you everyone for listening this online Dhamma talk, locally and nationally and internationally. Hello Colin, good evening. Hello Anish, good evening. And everyone, I hope that you're all having a wonderful time. Although here it's quiet and very damp and cold. But this is winter is coming. But the nature is such that a beautiful golden color is transformed. All the trees are turning into the golden color. From the green, and now this autumn, all the trees are transforming it into, all the leaves on the trees are green, the yellow and a golden color and a red. And it won't last long. Probably a week later, and 2 weeks' time, the whole tree will be no leaves at all. And this is the nature is such. And within this 3 months' time, again, during the winter, these trees will be standing like a dead tree, as such that there is no life at all. But as the sunlight hits, sunlight's becoming more warmer, and gradually those trees will again regain their strength to come out and give a beautiful green leaves, cheering every one of us, cheering our life for some times and certain period of a time. And this is the cycle of this nature. And in our life as well, some days it's been a beautiful, and other days been a gloomy, and other days been very sad. And this nature of a flexibility, or this changing nature, always has given us such a wonderful experience of this life. And as a result of that, we cherish the beautiful memories that we come across, and we want to forget all those the negative emotions and negative experiences that we have come across. If there is no change, we will not be anticipating or looking forward for the summer, and beautiful spring begins to emerge, and everything transforms into change, into the beautiful summer to arrive. Our life is like that too. If there is only one way or one experience, then life will be very boring. But because of this so much flexibilities and so much fluctuations are taking place in our life due to certain things. Sometimes it's because of our emotions, other times because of the people around us, and other time it's environmental change and political change, economical crash, so on. And since the COVID-19, it has hit every one of us hardly in different aspects, and yet we as a human know how to twist and turn to be survived in such a difficult time, waiting for this warm sunlight to emerge and bring the spring and a wonderful summer to arrive in our lives. One thing what we have learned from this COVID-19, that there's always more things to be done and there's more things to be appreciated. And end of the day, these all are conditioned aroused situations. Once the condition dissolves, then that needs to vanish. And that is the exact teachings that the Buddha was talking on this first discourse of the Buddha, that throughout this 3 months' time I've been explaining the important messages from this first discourse of the Buddha. And finally, after he had explained such in details, the first person realized that truth. And that is known as Yang Kinchi Samudaya Dhammang Sabbantang Nirodha Dhammanti. And that basically means that everything that has the nature to arise, nature of arising, has the nature of ceasing. And that was the essence of the teachings of the Buddha. Everything that conditioned arises, a nature of arising, and that is also nature of a ceasing. So end of the discourse, that after the Buddha had explained the Four Noble Truths in such a detail, piece by piece, and principles by principles, and how to be enlightening and how to be enlightened, and investigating on that through both the practice and the theory and the practice. End of the day is to understand that everything that we see, that we experience, are conditioned aroused. And anything that conditioned arises is a nature to cease. And that was the gist, the core teachings that the Buddha was trying to express. The very moment when the Buddha explained this cause and effect, and how how the Four Noble Truths becoming a cause and effect to face this circle of birth and death and the trouble in our lives, the first person, the Venerable Kondañña, was able to comprehend that all the conditioned things that arises, it is a nature to cease. That's a beautiful one. And I've been pondering on that, particularly this discourse. I really love this part, that this says everything that has the nature of arising has the nature of ceasing. And this is what the teachings, what we need to realize in our day-to-day life too. That when we are born, we came with nothing. We came with nothing, and throughout this time, we accumulate so many. The wealth, the relationship, the family, the house, the cars, the office, the status, and so many throughout this time of living, hoping that that will give us comfort, hoping that that will give us happy life, but that never ends. You always need to work in order to fulfill that satisfy. And end of the day, when we die again, we are not taking all these that we have accumulated along the way. So we have to leave it behind. Nothing goes with us. So we came alone and have to go alone. So during this time of coming and going, whatever we have accumulated are conditioned aroused. Because we go to work, that's why we got the money, and because of having this money, we got the house, and because of this money, we got the car, and then because of having a house, and we got the relationship with our partners and the husband or wife, and then because of that we are having the children and families and friends like that. But end of the day, we all have to leave that. So ceasing is a nature, is there. As it arises because of condition comes together, the ceasing takes place too. And that was the gist, the essence that Venerable Kondañña understood. Now let me tell you that who is Venerable Kondañña? The first disciples of the Buddha. So this Venerable Kondañña. And he was very old, in fact. He was very, very old at that time, because he was one of the 8 Brahmins who predicted that the Buddha to be. When the prince, the Siddhartha Buddha to be, was born at that time, in a celebration, the king Suddhodana invited 108 learned Brahmins, those who know about the signs and symbols, to predict that how this baby will be. And among this 108, the king chose only 8 learned and skilled Brahmins, just to predict. And after the significant time of spending and checking all the signs and symbols of the Prince Siddhartha, 7 of them declared that there is 2 options. One, if he stays in a palace, he would become the universal monarch or the king. But if he leaves the palace, he would become a great ascetic, the Buddha. But among them there was one very young Brahmin and who was very learned. After that, he simply said, that's the one thing, that the prince will become the great ascetic or to be the Buddha. The king didn't like that. But what the king can do? Nothing. But end of the day, after the prince, after that prediction, whether 7 Brahmins told or the one person told, the end of the day is to keep the house study or house schooling. So Prince Siddhartha probably is the first in the history to be the house schooling at his own house by his own father. And then his father invited other learned scholars to the home to teach the prince. So homeschooling. But the prince, he had the thought of giving the household life and become an ascetic and a search for the truth. So at the age of 29, he left the palace. Now, the young lad who said that he will be the Buddha, he was the Kondañña. And that time he was very young, learned, skilled Brahmin. And he was the one who declared that there is no 2 options, only one option, that the prince will be the Buddha. And after that, he took a vow. As soon as he left the palace at that time, he took a vow that as soon as he hears the prince left the palace for the search of the truth, he will go and help him. He will go and help him. So after 29 years of waiting, this prince left the palace, and then after when he heard that he left the palace, he became an ascetic along with other 4 Brahmins. They, all 5 disciples or 5 ascetics, followed his footsteps and give the prince a service during his practice. So there were just around the prince in the forest and practicing and helping him, like bringing food and the water and cleaning all around in his kutis, like that, hoping that one day when the prince attains the enlightenment, at that time they will be the first person to hear the teachings. But time wasn't right. And those days they have the concept or attitude or concept that in order to gain the knowledge you have to sacrifice, or you have to do a very austere practice, as a torturing your body in a different ways, not eating food, or standing in one leg, or hanging on the trees and like that, and so and so. So those were the concept that everyone had it at that time. Buddha at that time, as an ascetic, prince ascetic, he also practiced along the way as it was there at that time. All the techniques that are available at that time, he went and learned and practiced thoroughly with a great faith and confidence on those teachings, and yet he was unable to attain. And during this time, Venerable Kondañña, along with other 4 companions, were giving a service to the prince ascetic. And somehow after this great practice, the prince realized that the path is not the right path. This is too extreme, and it is not leading for the knowledge and liberation. So at that time, then the prince ascetic took some food to eat. Now, at that time, when the prince took some food to eat, Kondañña, as a leader of this group of 5 other companions, left prince ascetic, thinking that now he has given up the practice. He now indulged into the sensual pleasure of eating and comfortness. And that was their concept, the attitude, their understanding that they had during that time, that if you are following this path, you will be getting enlightenment. And if you change it, you won't get it. And nowadays as well, there are plenty of people still have that same attitude, that you have to follow what I have been told, and only then you will be liberated, or only then you will be connected to the external powers or the gods, and kind of like that. And if somebody questions or somebody walk against that, then they would not accept you. Maybe you are finding a right path. So, and then when the Buddha, the prince ascetic at that time, after testing and practicing all the available methods to be enlightened, he left that and ate the food, and the 5 ascetics left him, thinking that he is no more in line to be the Buddha, and we should not be giving a service. After they left, the Buddha pursued his practice and attained the enlightenment, realization of this Four Noble Truth. And after his Four Noble Truth realization, he became the Buddha, and then he looked at the world, that whom should he go and preach. And at that time, his previous 2 teachers were quite knowledgeable and intelligent, and thought that they will be able to understand this sublime Dhamma, but sadly they were already died. And with that, he thought of these 5 companions and traveled from the Bodh Gaya to the Varanasi, the Saranath, to give the teachings. And that is the first discourse that we have been talking. And after traveling to the Varanasi, when the Buddha was, after that he was a Buddha, as an enlightened one, when he walked towards these 5 companions, those who were living in Saranath, the deer park, and these 5 ascetics knew and saw the prince ascetic, now the Buddha, is coming towards them. And they had an agreement saying that, look at him, look at this prince ascetic, now he is coming to us simply looking for service, or going to his kingdom, back to his kingdom. We will not welcome him or give any service to him. But it happens such that as the Buddha come closer and closer, every 5 of them just did as they used to do. So one prepare the seats, one prepare the water, one prepare and like that. Right? So with that, when the Buddha arrived, then Buddha tried to convince them that, okay, I have become the Buddha. They didn't listen. And then the Buddha, at the 3rd time, told them that, have I ever tell you that I have been the Buddha? And in that, they were ready to listen. And that's how the first discourse begins. And in that first discourse, I have been elaborating and telling the stories. Yes, Sarge, and in that topic, Sarge, I have explained in 3 months' time, 3 months ago, one of the talks. So you can listen that on our YouTube channel. Yes, Buddha didn't wanted to teach for the first time. And then later he contemplated an ability that there are some people who are able to understand the teachings. That's how he began to search to teach. And then he found these 5 ascetics as the first people to hear his teachings. And in that moment, the Kondañña was as a chief, as one who is very old person, who was disappointed by Buddha's following the wrong path, ready to listen the teachings. And a Buddha explained this first discourse of the Buddha, explaining the 2 extremes that one should be avoiding and follow the Eightfold Noble Path and understanding the Four Noble Truths. As the Buddha explained it in a detail about the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Noble Path and how one should be pondering and understanding this, how this mechanism works in the Four Noble Truths. And at the end, the Kondañña, realized that everything that has the nature of arising has a nature of a ceasing. That very moment he attains the great vision, great knowledge. And that moment he becomes Sotapanna, the first level of the noblehood. And that is the first stage, I would say, being purely, truly Buddhist. Until then, we are not just a training to be a real Buddhist, training to understand things as they truly are. It doesn't matter whether we are believing in the Buddhism or not, whether you're believing in the Buddha or not, whether you're believing in Buddhist philosophy or not. The very moment when you realize and you understand from your own experience that everything that has nature of arising has a nature of a ceasing, that moment you have a full confidence in this natural truth, pertaining to it, which is the universal truth, the characteristics. That moment one becomes the truly Buddhists. There will be no change in your faith. You will be able to give up your personality view. You will be able to give up the identity the egos and so-called holding on to it, myness and I-ness. Like we normally present ourselves as, my name is this, I came from this country, I am belong to this ethnicity, I am belong to this religion. And then on that foundation, we try to look at other people, that where he is from, what is his name, where he is from, what is his ethnicity, and what is his religion. And with that, if that is not matching with me, then that is not in my group. That's how we are creating a friction. But the very moment when we realize the reality as such, as that everything has a conditioned, a reason is conditioned to cease, then these boundaries simply disappears. There will be no boundaries between we and them. There will be just we, us. There will be no my and them. There will be no I and he or she. And with this, there will be no conflict in the world at all, because you have fully understood. There will be no need of any religion. There is no need of any identity, no boundaries. It's complete freedom. It's like going back to the natural process, back to nature. Like trees. They didn't have their names. We gave them. But this tree and that tree. But they are living harmoniously in the forest. They grow, and later on, when they grow fully, they will just die out. And then when they die out, they themselves become supportive to other trees to grow. And then after that, a cycle of birth and death, supporting one another, happening continuously. So we will be in that way as well. So we become a part of the cycle of this universe, and we will be liberated. We will be free from this attachment and conceptions. So, like the Kondañña have understood, may you all understand this true Dhamma. So I end here for tonight's reflection. Thank you everyone for listening, and may you all be well and happy. May the Buddha Dhamma Sangha bless you. In a few moments' time, we'll have a evening chanting and guided meditation. Hope to see you soon. Take care and good night if you're not joining with us. Sadhu.